Hello again and welcome to another Engramax. Today we'll be talking about subjunctives. Don't panic, I'm going to explain everything about it. It's actually pretty simple. Today we'll talk about it's time, it's high time. I'm pretty sure you have heard it's time or it's high time, it's time we did that, it's time you did that. I'll explain that today. And then wishes and regrets, I'd rather to express preferences, as if, as though, we will discuss today, and formal subjunctives. Look, let's talk about verb moods in English. In English, verbs could have three moods. We have indicative mood, we have subjunctive mood, and we have imperative mood. Again, don't get scared of what they look like. It is pretty simple. Most sentences we use every day are the verbs are in indicative mood. Indicative mood means you're talking about a real thing. Like almost all the sentences that I just told you, they are all, almost, I think, all of them are in indicative mood. But when we are talking about unreal things, I'm going to explain in the next slide. When we talk about unreal things, the mood of the verb is subjunctive. And imperative is, again, very easy. You must have heard about imperative. It means like giving commands. Come over here, do that, watch this. This is, we call the verb in imperative mood. Now, what is subjunctive? A verb form or a verb mood we use to express unreal things. What does that mean, unreal things? You need to pay attention to the verb that you start the sentence with. For example, when you express a hope, you're creating a subjunctive situation. When you talk about your dreams, subjunctive mood, because it is not real. It's a dream. It's a hope. It's a demand. When you make a demand of somebody, you are creating subjunctive mood, or when you make suggestions. Let me give you some examples. I wish I were rich. Okay, look, obviously I'm not. We'll talk about the use of wish in other slides today. This is just an example of the meaning of subjunctive. And look, subjunctive is not about the form of the verb, like infinitive or past or present. No, it's irrelevant to that. So we could have different forms of verbs to create a subjunctive mood. For example, we say, I wish I were rich. You see, we don't say with wish, we don't say I was rich. I wish I were rich. This is to differentiate between a subjunctive mood and an indicative mood. I hope you'll succeed. This is another subjunctive mood. This, you see, in here we use past simple, it is subjunctive. In here, after hope, we used future simple, it is still subjunctive, because this situation is uncertain. That's why we call it a subjunctive mood, because it is not real. He could have called me, because he didn't call me. So I'm you see, could plus have plus past participle. This is in subjunctive mood too. It's time. One of the situations in which we use subjunctive is the phrase it's time, or it's high time, or it's about time. We say, it's time we fixed the system. We're not talking about the past. This is fake past. We are talking about the present or the future. But because this is subjunctive, we change the form of the verb to show this is subjunctive. It's time we fixed. We use this expression or this structure when we want to say that we should have been doing something right now, but we are not doing that. So we say, it's time we fixed the system. It's like saying that it's almost late for something. Again, it's high time is very similar to it's time. It's high time you got a haircut. So remember this subject in here. So it's time follows with a subject, and then we use the past simple form. It's high time you got a haircut. We don't say it's high time you get a haircut. Because when you say you get a haircut, you are using the indicative mood of the verb. But this is subjunctive. Or again, it's about time we were leaving. We could also use past continuous. All right. As you can see, again, in here, instead of present, we use past form. Now, how do we express wishes? When you express a wish, it means you're talking about the present or the future, because we cannot change the past, at least not yet, maybe in the future. So this is the structure. We use I wish, she wishes, he wishes, and so on, plus past simple, the sentence in past simple or in past continuous. Example, we say, I wish I had more power. Look, we are talking about the present or the future, but we used fake past simple, because this is subjunctive mood. That's why we want to show that this is a subjunctive mood. So remember, I wish, this, we have two clauses in here. We have I wish and the first clause. The first clause is in indicative mood. Okay, don't confuse this with the other clause. This sentence is in subjunctive mood. I had more power. She wishes, the first clause, in indicative mood. Her father weren't leaving. It means her father is leaving right now, but we use fake past continuous because this second clause is in subjunctive. We wish, the indicative part, the world, the subject, were a better place. Okay, so this were in here, we don't say we wish the world will be or is a better place, because if you use will be or wish, you are using indicative mood. This is subjunctive, past simple or continuous. Now, sometimes we use would after I wish. Look, when you do this, it means you are complaining about something. It means you are unsatisfied with the situation and you want to change that. So remember that when you are complaining, your tone should show that. You cannot just use the words. You need to show your complaining using your tone as well. Example, instead of saying, I wish you stopped, just like I explained in the previous slide, subjunctive. I wish you would stop being so silly. Because look, the tone is like this. I wish you would stop being so silly. Okay, that's why we use would. But remember, when your subject is I or we, when I say subject, the subject of the second clause in here, not the first clause. When your subject is I and we instead of would for complaining, we use could. We say, for example, you are not happy with yourself, that you wake up, that you lack the power of concentration. So you say, I wish I could concentrate better. Why do we use could instead of would? It's obvious, because when I cannot say, I wish I would concentrate better. It's ridiculous. What is stopping you then? We use could to challenge our ability to concentrate, our lack of ability actually to concentrate or anything else. So, regrets. Still, we use the same verb, wish, but because it is about the past, we call it regret. But in here, the difference is the clause following the wish clause is in past perfect. Example, we say, I wish. Again, this is about the present, and this is indicative. I wish I hadn't eaten that much. You're regretting something that happened in the past. I wish I had found you earlier. Again, another example for expressing regrets. Now, hope is another verb. Sometimes some English learners struggle with it. After hope, we use will or present form. Either would be fine. I hope you'll find peace. Or you could say, I hope he doesn't call me again. Both of them are talking about a hope in the present or in the future. Again, little difference between will and present simple after hope. Now, we use I'd rather, or she'd rather, or he'd rather, or we'd rather to express a preference. This preference could be in the present or it could be in the past. Let's talk about expressing your preference in the present. We could use either one of these two structures in here. We could use I'd rather plus subject plus past simple or past continuous. What does that mean? We say, I'd rather you. Okay, you are clarifying this preference is about someone specific. I'd rather you didn't call me sir. It means I don't like this. This is not my preference. I prefer for you not to call me sir. As you can see, we use past simple, but this is present. This is a present preference, but this is still in subjunctive, or you could call it fake past. Another form, the same meaning, but in here we don't have a subject. Like in here, we have two clauses. I'd rather, you didn't call me sir. Clause number one, I'd rather. Clause number two, you didn't call me sir. But in here, we have only one clause because we only have one subject. I'd rather, but it follows with the base form of the verb. Why don't we have a subject in here? Because when you say I'd rather go now, you're talking about yourself. I'd rather go. But couldn't you use I again in here? Like, for example, couldn't we say I'd rather I went now? Yes, you could. It's up to you. But when it is about you, you don't need to repeat the subject again. Anyway, now expressing your preference in the past. Again, we have two structures of the same meaning. I'd rather plus subject again. This is in past perfect. Remember, we push it one step back. Example, I'd rather you, subject, had called me sooner. This is about a past event that didn't happen. Or you could say, I'd rather. Again, this is a two-clause preference. I'd rather, clause number one. You had called me sooner, clause number two. I'd rather, this is only one clause. I'd rather have past participle. This we call a perfect infinitive. I'd rather have seen a better film. For example, you went to the cinema last weekend with your friend and you saw a film that even at the moment that you were watching the film that you were choosing the film, it wasn't your first choice. So you say, I'd rather have seen a better film. Now, as if and as though, a very common form and a very useful form in English. They mean almost the same. They make little difference. So sometimes we use as if or as though in indicative mood when we are describing a real situation. Let me explain. You keep the tense in here. What does that mean? We say, she looked. Again, we have two clauses in here because as if is a conjunction. It connects this clause with this clause in here. When you say as if, it means something is like that, or from the appearance of something, I conclude this. She looked as if he were in charge. Look, she looked, past simple, were, past simple. When these two verbs are in the same form, it means that's an indicative mood. It means she was in charge. Because you go somewhere, you see a woman, and you assume because of the attitude and everything and the appearance, you assume she is in charge, and she is in charge. So you say she looked as if she were in charge, or you could say this could be in present. She behaves as though everything is fine. Behaves present simple, is present simple, because everything is fine, at least according to your observations. Now, as if and as though in subjunctive mood, when it is not a real situation, you push the tense one step back. Relative to this, look, we say he looked, past simple, as if he had seen a ghost. We use past perfect, and this is in past simple. We realize this is in subjunctive mood. Of course, there was no ghost. You see, an unreal situation. She behaves, present simple, as though everything were fine. And again, in subjunctive mood, we don't use was, especially in written English. We use were. As though everything were fine. So this is in present simple and this is in past simple. So we conclude that everything was not fine. You see how important this is? Of course, you could use these interchangeably. Like you could use, we hear people use indicative mood for subjunctive mood and vice versa. And people may understand you, but they don't fully understand you. That's the point of learning language. You want people to understand you as well as possible. Okay, thanks for watching another Angry Max. If you liked it, you know what to do. If you have any questions, you can ask me in any way you can find. See you next time.